what I always do is I judge people on three things: want, will, and capacity. Do they want to do the job? Do they have the will to do the job? And do they have the capacity? For a while there, I felt like I was alone. Like, am I crazy? Like, this shouldn't be so hard. We want to fix the problem so that we can continue to get better. We don't bypass problems. And if you don't fail, you don't learn how to fix it better. You realize so much how much the community gives to you as a company. You know, one of the things that I like to focus most on is always helping my employees first, because they know that that's why they're here. That's why we've had a lot of success. My goal always has been to have influence and impact over this trade industry, you know, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to change the way that people look at the trades.
Welcome to the Standby Generator Podcast, brought to you by Power Alliance. I'm your host, Jim Swetman. Together, we will dive into the world of the standby power business, offering expert insights, industry trends, and actionable strategies to help you grow and scale your generator business. Whether you're looking to optimize your operations, increase profitability, or stay ahead of the curve, this podcast is your go-to resource. So grab a seat and let's power up your business for success. Hello, and thank you for joining the Standby Generator Podcast. I am Jim Swetman, your host, and I'm extremely excited this afternoon to have Jesse Rack. Jesse is the CEO of Rack Electric, Rack Energy, and Rack Solar, three divisions of a family-owned business based in Boca Raton, Florida. Under his leadership, the company has grown to over 200 employees and expanded its services across multiple areas within Florida. So a company overview real quick, and then we'll get Jesse on here because I've got a whole lot of really exciting questions on his growth. Again, at the company divisions, they have Rack Electric, Rack Energy, and Rack Solar. And their core services are, of course, generator installations, gas and propane delivery, electric services, solar energy solutions, and EV infrastructure. So, Jesse, welcome to the podcast here today. But before we get started, I have one question for you, and it's very intriguing to me. It's the statement that you made that I was doing some research on. It was called Rack versus Everybody. Could you give me an idea of exactly what Rack versus Everybody is? And welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me, Jim. Yeah, Rack versus everybody. You know, I'm a former college football player. You know, I got a Division I scholarship to the University of Buffalo, which kind of aligns where you and I have some similarities in Western New York. And, you know, I've always loved watching HBO Hard Knocks and being a former tight end and watching a tight end and Dan Campbell, who's the head coach for the Lions, have a lot of success. I was watching Hard Knocks, and there it was. It was Detroit versus everybody. And it just kind of clicked to me, you know, because as a company, you know, you want to kind of create that culture of toughness, that culture of working hard, you know, no excuses. And that's kind of what we embody here at Rack. And uniquely over, you know, the last 3-4 years with COVID, we've seen a lot of private equity, a lot of venture capitalism come into our backyard, or as we like to refer to as our sandbox, because we're here in Florida. And we've kind of seen them struggle, you know, and because we're on this mindset of it's us versus them. So our projects, our people want to come work for us here at Rack because we're independent, we're family owned and operated. And it's kind of just been the mantra that we've pounded our chest on and had a lot of success with.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love the confidence and the success and things like that. So congratulations to all of that, to everything that you've done down there. Let's talk a little bit about business development and achievements. You've gone on quite a growth cycle here, 12 years of growth, and you're the largest independent Generac dealer in Florida, strong electrical service background, emerging solar divisions. Why don't you give us a little idea about your business development and achievements here, and how did you get all that way?
So uniquely, I've been very fortunate to work with my father. We started in this industry as just your standard electricians, new construction, did a lot of evaluation on numbers and seeing the issues. And I started to say to my dad, we got to get more into service. We got to get more as a specialty contractor. And our niche or niche, as some people would like to say, is we like the hard stuff. And one thing
Mm-hmm.
about generators, it is, I believe, the hardest part of all these large cycled categories here in the home service world. And we've done a really good job perfecting it, growing it. Where I feel, you know, that I bring the most value to this world is in the service industry. And what I've tried to stick to is growing different verticals within the service world. And, some of it's happened just getting into generators. Obviously, we all know generators need a fuel source, and natural gas and propane are the large majority of those sources when you're dealing with residential homes. So we went down that subcontractor route, and it was awful. It was the
Yeah.
first time we ever had people complain.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's how
Yep.
Rack Energy was born.
Yep.
And I never really had aspirations to fuel propane, fill propane as fast as we did,
Hmm.
to be a fuel service and delivery provider. But through necessity of, again, dealing with third parties, having to rely on non-deliveries or issues, we kind of took it into our own hands and built that vertical and added that to our gas and propane department. And just kept going. Solar was an idea that I felt that, hey, what do all the other generator contractors not have? They're not focused on this clean energy. And maybe I listened a lot into what Generac was saying, how this $4 billion industry, and how could we get involved with it? So I essentially decided, let's start Rack Solar, and everything just kind of takes a life of itself. Now we're working with Rack Air, which is our HVAC division.
Mm.
And we're really trying to isolate the two companies in a way that we have this really incredible home service side, but then we have this extremely dynamic commercial EPC side that we can build
Wow.
anything. So it's been a wild ride.
Wow. I know when I had the dealership up here, you know, to get a complete turnkey installation and to get it done that day, relying on the subcontractors, the weakest point from us was always the propane guy getting
Yeah,
there and doing in New York State, we can't do physical connections to the generators with the propane lines. That has to be done by a certified installer. And there are so many times where that installation could not be done because the propane guys didn't show up or the schedule wasn't there or they forgot about it. And, in our processes, we had to add a whole nother layer onto this thing to call the propane supplier 2 days advance, call them a day in advance, call them that morning. And it was crazy. And they were the weakest link in that thing. And you having, I guess, the foresight, the capital to take care of that loose end is just something. So you guys fill, I mean, you guys have your own propane trucks and
we ha-
stuff, or
we
how
have
does
our
that work?
yep we have our own bulk plant. It took a
Oh,
long time to figure it all out. It was one of those things where I couldn't figure out, but right away. I had to do a lot of research and data and talk with other guys. It's another industry, Jim, that's been kind of consumed by the large commercial, feral gas, suburban gas.
yeah.
There's no more family owned and operated. There's really none of us. So, the unique thing is that my gas department was built in necessity for the generators. And now this propane department, we don't even have to spend money on marketing for, because simply we just answer the phone, and our prices are the price, and we offer
Yeah.
deliveries within 48 hours.
Mhm.
These other guys you're dealing with overseas, you're dealing with all these insane checks and balances, and getting them set up. Look, we all got into this business for one reason, to support our customers and create this customer experience that's
Hmm.
not complicated,
Yeah.
you know,
Yep.
and everything
Yeah.
has gotten so much more complicated with technology. And but once you kind of adapt to it and grab it and grow with it, it really becomes easy, you know. So we want to make it as easy as possible for our clients.
Oh, well, that's a move that I had looked at, but I didn't want to do it. So I just had to, as we talk about, deal with it, right? And it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
a big pain in the ass with that. So real quick, company culture and team building, recruitment with vision. I've got some notes here: mentorship, censored leadership. I just wrote some notes about some of the successes that you've done, with the company culture and team building and recognizing team excellence. Can you talk a little bit about your company culture
Yeah,
that you have
culture
there
is
at RAC?
everything. Culture is really everything, you know, and as we've grown, you know, you've I would use it as a terminology, you know, as you're growing as a new company, sometimes there's old furniture and new furniture, and it's the job of the old furniture to fit in with the new company. And, you know, we've had to make tough changes. And, you know, some people, you know, that were here for a long time, they left because we were just changing that positive culture. I come from the world of playing sports. To me, there's a playbook to success. We use that playbook in each division that we have. I think it starts with the head coach or the leader, which is me.
Yep.
I lead from the front. I don't lead from the back, but I really do empower my managers. I always tell people one of my greatest strengths is recruiting, and I've recruited
Mm,
an extremely intelligent, sophisticated team that's open to being criticized.
mhm.
You know, as I always say to them, we always preach iron sharpens iron. That's been something that has been instilled in me since the days of football. You know, it's my job to gauge the risk. It's my job to lead from the front. It's their job to collect the data and run the processes and the procedures. And it really starts at the top with people. And so that's really been a lot of our success. Obviously, then it graduates to the softwares and the different SOPs, but just
Mhm.
continually maintaining that culture, making it a place that people really want to work. You know,
There
so
you go.
whether that's
There
a
you go.
quarterly party,
Yep.
you know, since I've been here
Yep.
for 12 years, we've had 12 Christmas parties. You know, and some of these guys, they work for companies for a long time. They don't get anything, you
Yeah.
know, and instead of the vendors that we work with always wanting to, you know, take me to lunch or take somebody else to
Hmm.
lunch, I tell them to store that to the side. And by the end of the year, I need a donation for our Christmas party because it's about the guys and the
Hmm.
girls and it's
Hmm.
about the team. And you know, we
Mm.
give away anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 worth of gifts, and that's
Wow.
just what keeps people motivated, you know. So
Wow.
my goal always has been to have influence and impact over this
Mm.
trade industry, you know,
Mm.
and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to
Mhm.
change the way that people look at the trades. I'm trying to change the way the trades look at themselves. I'm trying to offer
Mm.
opportunity to guys
Mm.
that, you know, you see it, they just get stuck in the field forever. Not if
Mhm.
not if you're not if you're coaching them up and you're identifying these indicators to say, hey, you know what? That guy Jim, he could be a manager. He could become a project manager. He could be something more than just swinging a wrench every single day. You know,
Mm.
so giving that opportunity has really come into fruition for us, and it's really repaid with the quality of employees that we have.
Yeah. I tell you what, employees are growth, right? You have to have employees in order to grow. And, one of the downsides, that I had, was not able to get the type of employees that I needed and wanted for growth that met the same expectations that I had. How do you deal with that? What are your procedures in place to make sure that you're on this growth train, and that you maintain that? What are there any kind of secrets
Well,
that you use for that?
obviously, I mean, bonuses always motivate people.
Mm-hmm.
When we started to get into the merger and acquisition side, you know, we were going through some stuff in the economy, and people weren't really sure. So as I sat down, every merger and acquisition that we've done, I've sat down my high level employees or my management team and I said, what do we think?
Mm.
And we'd go around the room and we'd talk about it. And
Yeah.
if somebody wasn't in, we wanted to know why. And either by
Mm-hmm.
the end of that meeting, we were all in or we were all out. And that's kind of how
Mm.
we've rolled. And that kind of bounces back to that rack versus everybody thing because, a couple of years ago, I didn't have many maintenance contracts. We were still a very much new generator contractor here in the state. We were gaining momentum because we were investing into our people. We were putting more time and energy into the software. We were identifying people that we felt could be game changers for us, right? That playmaker. And what we were eliminating were people that whatever their faults, whatever their negatives were, we weren't going to have them do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And we were getting very task oriented, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it takes a team, it takes a village, it takes all of us. So it really has been a testament to my team. I tell everybody, I'm the one that gets to talk about it because probably all 10 of them don't want to talk about it. I love to talk about it. I love to talk about how great they are because they allow me this opportunity to continue to spread all the good news that's happening here at RAC.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about, keeping them motivated.
It is, it is. And it's
it's
about caring too,
yep. Yep.
like you know, I can't go through every little thing, but there's always
Mm-hmm.
extra perks for being a good employee.
Mm-hmm.
Being that person that finishes up at 5 and then says, "Hey, is there anything else you need me to do?" Or
Yeah.
nine
Yeah.
times out of 10, there's nothing I need to do, but maybe I want to have a 5-minute combo with them. And
Mm-hmm.
it's about maintaining that culture. So as
Mm-hmm.
long as we do that and I maintain it at a high level where all of us are rowing in the same direction, they then it's their job to get it down into the mid-level managers and the admins and then the field technicians.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Again, hats off to you for being a younger gentleman and be able to have that kind of insight because it takes, usual people 20 more years of experience to
I
have
was
that kind
Joe.
of insight. So congratulations on
Thank
that.
you. I mean, look,
Usually, usually if you're a young person, you just you have no patience at all and you
yeah.
just want to throw them out the door. But to have that kind of patience and insight is just fantastic.
You know what? I attested again to just putting the right people around me, whether it's my
Hmm.
operations manager or it's my VP of finance.
Yeah.
I have a business coach. And for a while there, I felt like I was alone. Like, am I crazy? Like this shouldn't be so hard. I have a college degree. I almost finished my master's degree, so I've spent a lot of time. I've built entire playbooks for football programs. So I,
Oh,
I
that's
did all these hard things. But I was always a type where if you gave me a task, I just knocked it out. But then
hmm
you start to realize not everybody's like you. But
hmm
when you get people, what we do is what I always do is I judge people on three things: want, will, and capacity. Do
hmm
they want to do the job? Do they have the will to do the job? And do they have the capacity?
Ah. Hmm.
Most of your managers should have all three.
Hmm.
Now, there's levels to all three of them, but somebody in a management position should have all three. As you go down, into the mid management, they may be missing one. They may not have the capacity to be that high level manager. So it's huge. It's important, especially when you're trying to build something special, which is what we're trying to do here down in Florida and in the Southeast United States. So it's a lot, but it's worth it in the end.
Yeah. Oh, the want, will, and capacity.
Yeah.
That is what's nice about that is it's clear. You know what I mean? It's not jumbo of words. It's not confusing for people. I mean, if you're a management or want to be management and just have those three words to think about, really, really clarify things. So let's talk about you had touched on this a little bit. Let's talk about business strategy a little bit with Rack. You've done some smart mergers and acquisitions. You obviously are really good in operational efficiencies and vision for scale. So let's talk about, mergers and acquisitions and, what are your philosophies on that? What is your long-term thoughts as far as growth goes?
Yeah, I mean, mergers and acquisitions have become the favorite part of my job, and I
Mm-hmm.
never knew anything about it until 2023 when I got a random phone call. I think it starts one with having a good reputation, being an industry leader within the reputation. The call that I got was a guy that said, "Hey, we had two large equity firms look at us and they don't want to touch us. Um, but I got your number from the supply house and they think you can help." And at that time, we were still in our infancy stages. We had just rebuilt our maintenance department. We work with a software called Service Titan, which some people love, some people hate. I think it's just like every software, it's garbage in, garbage out,
Yeah.
and then effectively, how much are you going to continually perfect the software, or are you going to bypass the problem? So our goal and our philosophy is we want to identify the problem, we want to fix the problem so that we can continue to get better. We don't bypass problems.
Mm,
So through the mergers and acquisitions, some of it, Jim, was just luck. Some of it's vision. I tend to think I have a sixth sense when I'm looking
mm,
at these businesses and I'm looking at
mhm,
the market share. I'm looking at the opportunities.
mhm,
Part of being dynamic is training people to buy stuff at a very aggressive price. We're consumers too, although we're contractors. We
mhm,
want to do quality work at fair prices, so I need to get fair prices. And
mhm.
through the merger and acquisition side, we just saw a lot of opportunity. There was some risk, and I would tell you now, after doing four or five of them, I may have let one or two of them go. But again, if you don't try, you don't learn. And if you don't fail, you don't learn how to fix it better. And through the M&As, I mean, we took out at one point we took out the number one dealership in the Treasure Coast. We took out the number three dealership in Miami. We took out the number six dealership in South Florida as a whole. And, to me, I felt like one, as we talked earlier, with venture capital and private equity,
Yep.
I didn't want them to get any momentum.
Yes.
But I also looked at it as a significant market share grab, as I knew we were going to continually expand in our home service side.
Yep. No.
So as we
Yeah.
add offices, we're able to add new categories, new trades, and electrical and HVAC are going to be a big part of what we do.
The on the merger side, was it just people just wanting to get out, older guys that started to get out, or were there financial issues
Most of them
or
were financial issues. Most of
yep,
them were financial issues.
yep,
Bankruptcy was involved.
yep,
A lot, again, a big learning curve. But after you do one or two of them, you really start to get dialed in. And the things that
yeah,
I missed on each one of them, the contract got better and better. And my team that I built, which is their subcategory is acquisition team, which ends up in an additional bonus for
yeah,
doing and helping that. They would
yeah,
spend extra time. They'd make sure that we did dot the I, and in certain situations, again, like I said, not every situation is the same.
yep,
Um, we've learned a lot, and we're only getting
yep,
better and better to do future acquisitions.
yep. Is the idea to stay in Florida or to continue to head up East Coast or West? Or I'm just curious what the plan
So
is.
already, I mean, we are already licensed in North Carolina and Alabama.
Hmm.
Um, right now, what my goal for this year was, after having 2 years of acquisitions and learning from them and
Mm-hmm.
tweaking them and pushing the team to the max, was this year was to focus more on cleaning everything up that we could control.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know,
Mm-hmm.
acquisitions are not all sunshine and rainbows. There is a lot of drama that comes with them, and
Yeah.
what I always try to tell everybody is, please don't shoot the messenger. We're not ignoring you because you're not one of our customers. We're trying to figure out and solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So um, again, they come with a different issue, and you learn from it and go forward. But the goal is, my particular goal is to really perfect what we're trying to push in the home service side here in our Tri-County area, which is Broward, Palm Beach, and Treasure Coast. We do have an office in Orlando that's just
Mm-hmm.
strictly HVAC. So the next thing would be to perfect that and bring the other trades up there. And then we'll kind of continue on.
There
I
you
I
go.
would focus more in the Florida market for now because we understand it. And then we'll start to look into the Southeast.
There you go. Yep. Very, very strategic growth
Yeah.
plan for sure. I love that one that you did where the one dealer went out of business and you hopped in. I saw that news article about that where you hopped in. They were oh my gosh, hundreds of installs that weren't completed yet that were prepaid, and
That
you
was the
guys
first
hop
one.
in. What's that?
That was the first one.
Really? Holy smokes. That
And
was,
you know
what a
what though?
mess that looked like,
It
man.
was a mess, and it was a mess, but it was such an opportunity. It really changed the dynamics of who we are here at RAC. It changed the way I looked at this business.
Hmm.
It started to show me that I was an industry leader and that we move differently, and that
Hmm.
with having the right software and the processes and the team in place, now
Hmm.
we're feeding the beast,
Hmm.
and I would take 4 or 5 more of those in a heartbeat,
Yeah.
not to say I wish bad on anybody, but
Yeah.
those people
Yeah.
were really thankful for us. They were really
Yeah.
thankful. And in each situation, each acquisition that we acquired, some are very thankful. Some of them get it.
Hmm.
Most
Hmm.
companies aren't getting acquired because they're rock stars. That 9 times out of 10 they're going in the opposite direction. But it's been a journey, and it's been an exciting journey.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, here, last thing here, I wanted to talk about your involvement with community connections. Obviously, being down in Boca Raton, the commitments you have, strong local relationships. Putting Boca first, I think, was some of your things. So, if you could just talk a little bit about your community connections and how RAC helps out your local area.
Yeah, and to some of my mentors who got me involved with giving back to the community, you realize so much how much the community gives to you as a company. I got involved with charity several years ago, and I would be involved, by donating, and I felt like there was more of a calling, and as we
Mm-hmm.
began to get involved into a little bit more serious ones, I had the opportunity to be selected to be a chairman or a co-chairman, and
Mm-hmm.
it's afforded me a lot of opportunity to not only help and give back to our community here in Boca, but also spread some of the great things that we're offering here at RAC, and it could be a job, it could be an opportunity to somebody who's part of one of those programs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, all of this success, I still believe in my faith, and I still believe in always doing the right thing and giving back, and
Mm-hmm.
to me, that's the best way that I can give back.
Oh,
One of the greatest things that I feel is that, with having, 200 employees, because it fluctuates here and there, I'm having an opportunity to make an impact on their life. They're having an
for
opportunity to make
sure.
an impact on their children's life or
Yeah.
grandchildren's life. And, you forget that all starts at one core, which is RAC, so thousands of people are being impacted, so I want people to see the great, the good, everything that we're doing at RAC, one of
Mm-hmm.
the things that I like to focus most on is always helping my employees first, because they know that that's why they're here. That's why we've had a lot of success. It starts with the people,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why we've had success with adding new bodies and adding new people
Yeah.
through the years, and people haven't left because we care about our employees too. So I think it just kind of goes full circle to see, you know, owners that are present, um, um, companies that are local within the local community, giving back and helping and making an impact on children's lives or abused women's
Yeah.
lives. That really
Agree.
ultimately is leaving the world in a better place.
Yeah. Oh, agree. That is absolutely fantastic. It goes a long way. So how do you, last question here, how do you balance everything that you have going on with business life? You have two children, right? Right? You have a newborn now?
Yes, I do. I have two little
Yeah.
boys, two and a half, and a 7 month old.
Oh
So
my heaven.
yeah, how do I balance it?
Yeah,
I mean,
how do you balance that?
I will say that sometimes, like right now, is a little bit of a unique spot because we're coming into hurricane season. So my
Mm,
time is a little bit more dedicated,
hmm.
more to the business, and my wife understands that. We're getting ready, we're preparing things. We've
Hmm.
changed a lot of things to start this year as far as inventory and processes,
Yeah.
just making sure those are all going smooth. Getting ready to ramp up for the season. We're
Yeah.
fully stocked, ready to roll.
Yeah.
And but on the other side, when I go home, I'm dad. So the key is for me is I try to have 2 really long days for the week, but the rest of the week I'm always home for dinner time so that
Oh,
we can have
yeah,
dinner. We keep it as normal as possible. During the
yeah,
week, we don't watch TV, so we don't sit there on our phones. I go back home, I play with the boys. It's hilarious to have 2 little boys. It's like a dream come true, but also a cartoon TV show every time, whether it's my 7 month old, almost crawling or sprinting around the house in his
yeah.
walker, and or my 2.5 year old, that kid wakes up ready for greatness. He is screaming, running. He wants to eat everything and wants to play every sport. Loves rack, loves everything that daddy does, and so
Oh,
it has its challenges,
yeah,
but just like anything, I always embrace
yeah,
challenge and I want to be the best version.
yeah.
Ultimately, I want to be the best dad that I can be while also being the best businessman.
Oh,
I think it makes both much sharper, much better, much stronger.
yeah. Well, I tell you what, Jesse, thank you very much for chatting. You're very inspirational. The focus that you have, everything with community and growth and, working with your dad and everything is just, just absolutely fantastic. So hats off to you. Congratulations to everything that you're doing down there. And thank you very much for your time at the Generator Standby podcast here. So you have a great year and hopefully hurricane season. And I always said this: let there be a lot of destruction, but nobody gets hurt. Right?
That's what I always say. Hurricanes. It's a unique business. As
Yeah.
everyone's leaving, I'm running. I'm staying. I'm ready to prepare to help our clients and help the community. But I
Yeah.
always say the same thing. I'd rather it be a scare and skirt
Yeah.
off the coast than anybody be affected. So,
Yeah.
thanks
Well,
for having me. I really
all right.
appreciate it, and I'm sure this will be the first of many.
Oh, yes. Sounds good. All right, Jesse.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in to the Standby Generator podcast. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share. For more resources, tips, and to connect with other like-minded professionals, visit us at poweralliance.com or visit our social media pages. Until next time, keep powering up your business.